What's up, guys? Just got back from watching Star Wars Rogue One, and I wanted to give you, my quick thoughts and everything like that while it's still fresh in my mind. First of all, pretty conflicted about this movie. It was definitely a Star Wars movie, but it was not what I was expecting by the previews. I was expecting a standalone, separate story tied to the franchise only in regards to the Death Star plans. I got half that because, well, actually, I'd say more than that. I'd say about 30 to 40% was that. And then the other 60% or so was a episode 4 prequel. That's the part where I'm conflicted on, because there was a lot of things that I thought were done well, a lot of homages. But before I get into it, just want to say that if you haven't seen the movie, definitely don't watch this yet, because I'm going to go all in, my raw thoughts for everything. Final warning, spoilers are abound after this point in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so how about that fucking Darth Vader scene at the end, though? That alone was like worth the price of admission. You've never seen Darth Vader act as badass as he did in this movie. Maybe only in the video games and in the Clone Wars series. But yeah, that scene was crazy. It reminded me of Metal Gear Solid, the first one. There's a scene where Gray Fox is introduced to Solid Snake, and he's in this long hallway and slaughters everyone, cutting off limbs and shit like that. Yeah, that's basically what happened. Darth Vader was force choking and force pushing and fucking force everything in this movie. He's only in 2 scenes, and both scenes are movie stealers. The first one's a little awkward. He has this line, "Don't choke on your whatever career goal." I forgot what he says. Don't choke on your words is basically what he's trying to say there. And the way it was shot was definitely in a way that you're supposed to laugh. It's a little bit of a comedic relief, and I get it, but it kind of just added to Darth Vader's history of shitty lines. And I'm talking about the "no" line in episode 3. Definitely a weak part of the film. But what are the things that I did like? I really enjoyed the fact that Grand Moff Tarkin was in this movie. Obviously, the original actor's dead, so that wasn't possible. But see, for every positive, there's a negative aspect, because I love the fact that Grand Moff was in it. He's a great character. He's one of the best characters in the whole Star Wars universe. He's strong. He's the only one that pretty much can stand up to Darth Vader besides the Emperor himself, and I've always loved him. I always loved the performance that was given in the original movie. The negative, though, is they used the facial replacement technology that they've been using lately in movies. Martin Scorsese is supposed to use this same technology for The Irishman, for Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and stuff, so they can look younger, similar to Tony Stark in the latest Captain America movie. The little scene in Captain America was fine. I bought it. It was a little distracting, but I felt it was more so distracting to see Robert Downey not look like Robert Downey than the fact that the CGI was particularly bad. But in this movie, the faces really stuck out, and I can't pretend like it didn't bother me, because it really did. Particularly what bothered me is the way that the scenes, the shots were cutting back and forth. To be quite honest, it looked like they were cutting to a cartoon. That's how bad it was. I felt like I was watching the Star Wars animated series. Yes, it's that bad. It's that distracting to me. It kind of reminded me of Jeff Bridges in Tron, where it didn't feel like the technology was in place yet. And obviously all 3 of these movies I've just mentioned, including this one, is Disney film. So obviously Disney is pushing this technology, and I understand why they would be. It makes sense. It allows them to tell stories that they might otherwise not be able to, because these actors are dead. At the same time, like in Tron, it was a little distracting. So every time Grand Moff was in the shot, unless you were seeing the back of his head, I found myself paying attention to how shitty it looked, more so than his words and everything like that, which makes me want to rewatch the whole film, because I honestly was paying attention to little things like that. Little things that you normally ignore when you have a good story, but I just couldn't help it. I mean, look at Planet of the Apes. I love this new series of Planet of the Apes, and they're fucking monkeys. We know they're not humans, and maybe we're able to accept that more. Maybe that's why, because they're apes, and so we kind of don't look at them as another human being. Maybe it's a mental thing. Maybe I was just getting distracted by, again, the fact that actor's dead. So maybe that's what it is. But I feel like Tywin was the one who was doing the motion capture, Or, I mean, they look very similar. And it made me think, well, what if they just spent time and reconstructed his face with prosthetics? I don't know if they ever thought of that. They probably did, obviously. I wonder what that would have looked like. It just was fucking distracting. And at the end, that final scene with Leia is prominent to the film. You understand why they're on the run from Vader. That starts episode 4. It's a positive that it's in there when you think of the lore of Star Wars. An awesome moment, kind of ruined by the shitty CGI. So, as I said, this is a prequel to episode 4. It's not just a one-off between 3 and 4. What I was thinking about earlier is, for people who've never watched Star Wars before, that, you know, the order in which they'd watch them would be 1, 2, 3. This one, 4, 5, 6. Not just because of the way they take place, but because it's an actual continuation of the saga. I wasn't expecting that, and so that's a positive and a negative. On one hand, I liked to think and create my own reasons as to why Leia was on the run from Vader, but now I know definitively why. And there's a lot of other moments like that, where now I know who created the Death Star, which that one wasn't a big deal, but now I know why that there was a flaw in the Death Star system. Mads Mikkelsen, he created the loophole for the Rebel Alliance to destroy the Death Star. It's also raining, guys, so if you hear that noise, it's raindrops. So it kind of ruins things. I mean, I kind of think about like Family Guy and stuff, where they make fun of these flaws and stuff like that. In 20 or 30 years, what's going to be the effect when kids who are born now see Rogue One for the first time? And maybe they'll watch Family Guy, maybe they won't, I don't know. But if they go back and watch Family Guy, it's going to be so dated and they're going to be confused. I don't understand why they're making fun of this one port in the Death Star, because it's explained, you know? So I wonder what it does to comedy and stuff like that. That's all I kept thinking about is, you know, what is George Lucas thinking about this? His baby, seeing his baby being explained like this. Because this definitely feels like Star Wars. And I would argue that this film is more Star Wars than The Force Awakens. So for all those who've complained that Force Awakens is too similar to, you know, episode 4 and the original trilogy, if you aren't complaining about this movie, then your opinion's invalid to me, because this movie borrows a lot from the original trilogy. Even the cameos, I mean, there's R2-D2 and C-3PO in that little scene, which was completely unnecessary, because it makes me think, okay, if we're to believe that Princess Leia escaping the clutches of Vader at the very end, that's the prequel, then how did C-3PO and R2-D2 get on the ship that Leia leaves in if they were on Yavin 4 because of that stupid little cameo? It makes me think of that. That's a continuity error now. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I missed something, but... And then there's this scene I liked. I like seeing the people that Luke encounters in the cantina in episode 4. The one that Obi-Wan cuts his hand off. And there's a scene in which the two leads, Diego Luna and the girl, sorry, I forget your name, I mean, very good actress. I really hope she plays the new Tomb Raider. She reminds me of the new Lara Croft in the reboot series. But anyway, yeah, they're walking through this desert location or something like that, and then they bump into those same two people. And it was a kind of little homage. If you've seen episode 4, you're gonna get it. If you haven't, it's still fine, you know? See, notice how I'm not even talking about the story. The story sucks. The story fucking sucks. I'm sorry. The fucking story to Rogue One is terrible. But a lot of the other shit going on was cool. And that's the thing I have to give to Gareth Edwards on this. Those moments where you as a Star Wars fan know what they're referencing and everything like that, they weren't too over the top. I gotta give them credit. And even in Force Awakens, where those moments worked and you bought them. There's the famous, I got a bad feeling about this line. So Diego Luna, the main chick, and the robot that are in the elevator, and they go up and, you know, I got a bad feeling. And they say, well, shut up, you know, be quiet, before he finishes the line. And it made sense in the context of the story, because the droid is actually an Imperial droid. And obviously, if anyone hears him saying things that an Imperial droid wouldn't say, they'd, you know, become alert and wonder what the fuck these two people were doing. So it makes sense that they would say to shush. So, you know, again, it makes sense in the context of the story. Of course, it was shot in a comedic way and everything like that, but you can defend it. It wasn't too overt, and I like that. I appreciate that. Let's talk story for a minute, because I haven't done that. I've just talked about kind of what I have liked and what I didn't like about the movie. So the story is about the birth of the Death Star, how it went from the plans of Dooku to what it is now. Mads Mikkelsen is the lead scientist on the project. He's the one who pretty much built the Death Star with his team of scientists and everything like that. And he did so in order to protect his daughter. At the very beginning of the movie, him, his wife, and his daughter are being chased down by the dude from Animal Kingdom. Again, sorry for not having the names. I'm kind of tired. It's 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning or something like that. The dude from Animal Kingdom, I like him. He has that like, but he's cool. He's a great actor. They meet the family at this farm or something like that, and in order to save his daughter from basically being killed or anything like that, he goes with them because he knows the more I work, the more he'll have to keep me alive, which means I can keep you alive. So he basically became an essential part of the team, and he was responsible for the Death Star. So yeah, that's how the story starts, and then you follow the daughter. The daughter was actually raised by Forrest Whitaker's character, so he's in charge of like the rebels. Apparently it was just the Alliance who was rebelling, and there was actual rebels, like guerrilla fighters. And they do come together and form the Rebel Alliance eventually, which is, again, it explains the name, and I don't know how I feel about that. That's why I'm conflicted. That's why I started off by saying I'm conflicted, because I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like knowing the reasons why now things are the way they are, or, you know, if they were left better in my own head. Anyway, he raised, I'm going off on a tangent, I'm sorry. He went and raised the daughter. So the daughter's kind of like, grew up kind of rebellious as well. She grew up fighting the rebellion. You find out she was abandoned by Forrest Whitaker because, again, Forrest Whitaker said, I need to save your life, which is interesting because both of her father figures abandoned her to save her life, and both give their lives for her. So can't really hate him. She gets in trouble. Basically, they find out that she's the daughter of the guy who invented the Death Star, and everyone's kind of hearing about this Death Star because it's not really built yet, and people are hearing, oh, it can destroy things, blah, blah, blah. So once they find out that she's the daughter, the Rebel Alliance want to use her to gain access to him to kill him. It would be like killing Oppenheimer or Einstein before they built the bomb or anything like that. So they're trying to get rid of it, trying to get rid of the source of their problems, or so they think. Because no one knows, not even the daughter, that he actually built like a failsafe into the system to be destroyed, that he was really working for the Alliance the whole time. So that's kind of how the story starts, and then it just becomes a by the numbers type thing, like a rescue heist war film. But it was light. No real character moments. I'm glad that Diego Luna and the girl don't kiss at any point. There were moments where you're like, no, because they were getting close and they were kind of feeling each other, like physically they were giving each other the looks, but I'm glad that they didn't. Thank you, Gareth. So glad that you did not do that, because that would have been fucking disappointing, because not every fucking woman needs to have a man to kiss, and this isn't me doing the whole feminist shit, whatever. It's just me saying that shit's old and tired, and I hate it. And who fucking cares, right? But just who fucking cares? Let her fuck everyone she wants. Let him fuck anyone he wants. Just don't make them love each other because they just so happen to find each other when they're both fucking troublemakers. Like, it just doesn't make sense. No one falls in love that much. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I just can't see myself being in war, first of all, period. Let alone being in war and then seeing like, oh, you're fucking hot. Let's make out in combat. No. So thank you, Gareth, for not doing that. Thank you for killing everyone too, by the way, which explains why no one's ever heard of Rogue One. That's also a downside, because they can't come back. They're all dead. Yes, every single one of them is dead. Everyone from the trailer is dead, except for Darth Vader and Grand Moff, but they die too. But no, everyone's dead. Literally, everyone's dead. The main guy and the girl, they die in a Death Star blast, which is pretty cool. Glad that they went with it and they stuck to their guns. It's not a happy movie. It's not a happy ending. If it's looked at within the context of the Star Wars universe, it's a very important moment. Their sacrifice was for the greater good. But I'm glad that they stuck with their guns and they didn't pull a Dark Knight Rises. And I'm talking to you, Christopher Nolan. So how the fuck can Batman survive a nuclear blast? How? But anyway, he should have been dead in that movie. It would have been a much better movie if he would have died. Right when you start to get to like these characters, they don't really go anywhere. They don't really have any arcs. Donnie Yen, the Japanese, he plays like this Japanese samurai guy who you kind of don't know if he has the Force or he doesn't. And his friend who has the fucking minigun type gun where he takes on like 3 people. You would expect him, since he's mowing motherfuckers down, that a whole battalion would have came. I mean, there's a shot where like he's looking at the explosion when Riz dies and everything like that, and you're like, oh, he's gonna fucking fuck shit up now, and he kills like 3 people. I expected like some badass fucking Boromir from fucking Lord of the Rings death, where he's just fucking mowing down Uruk-hai, and then he gets killed like 80 arrows, but he's still mowing motherfuckers down. And I feel like that's what Gareth was trying to do, but he just didn't. Kind of sucked. When Riz died, he kind of just died too, and I was like, oh, okay. The robot dies, which was sad because he was cool. But at least he took down motherfuckers. He had a Boromir. And if I'm using the wrong brother's name, excuse me. I love Lord of the Rings, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. But yeah, he had one of those moments where he was just taking down stormtroopers. And then, like I said, the 2 main characters die in the nuclear blast. Forrest Whitaker dies from the first Death Star blast, because there's actually 2 Death Star blasts in this movie. He dies at that moment. It pretty much covers it. Mads dies in an explosion. The main villain dies from getting killed by the Death Star, which I actually really liked. That was a very, very cinematic moment because of the context of the scene. Very powerful how he dies. He dies looking at his weapon that he wanted, that he was in charge of. And I love that he didn't die by the blast, per se. You know, like the main characters, they die from the aftershock and the shockwave and everything like that. You know, but he dies by the laser. The laser fucking shoots the tower that he's on and blows that shit up before it hits the target. I love that. That I loved. I was like, wow, that's great. And there were a lot of great directing moments. Gareth is a very talented director. I very much enjoyed Godzilla. And I liked monsters. And I really think that he's a force to be reckoned with. He understands cinema. He understands the world and the politics. Not only in the context of Star Wars, but in our society now. And that's what I really found fascinating, and it was really relative to like what Lucas was doing with his films. I mean, those films were also supposed to be emulating life, you know, like the Sand People, that was supposed to be modeled after the Middle East and those types of countries like that. And that was continued in this movie. And, you know, the rebels, that's why I said they dressed like ISIS figures. Where you kind of don't know, you can't discern them from a regular citizen to a guerrilla fighter. You can't, because of their traditional garb. And this isn't me talking shit about their clothing or anything like that. I'm just, you know, this is what it made me think of. And you know how they ambush. There's a scene where they ambush stormtroopers, just as you would see in Black Hawk Down or other movies like that, where the insurgents, they ambush the American forces and they mow them down and everything like that. It's a war movie. This is definitely a war movie. It takes itself seriously in that aspect. Yes, there's the lighter moments with our heroes, but other than that, there's not really a lot of that. I keep jumping to what I liked about the film as a whole, but I think that's the biggest problem, is the story's not there. And there's more cool homages to Star Wars lore than there was to the story. And I don't know how much of that was Gareth's influence or how much of that was Disney's influence, or it was a mutual thing. I don't know. I thought it was interesting how they set up the fact that Leia's stepfather, was on Alderaan. So now it gives more context to that scene when Leia watches Alderaan being blown up, her home planet. I don't remember in episode 4 if they explained if her father was there, but if not, now we know that he was. Now we know that's how he dies. So that's interesting. The callbacks to the prequels, the fact that he's in it, the fact that Vader, you know, you see him fucking burned and scarred up and everything like that, and he's in that freeze tank. that was badass. How they first reveal him. I mean, that's cool. I like that. Because it continues the story. Again, they use Grand Moff Tarkin. Of course he's going to be in there. Of course he's going to... That's one of the biggest things that I thought about in this movie. I said, oh, wait, where's Grand Moff? He better be in... And when I was watching the trailers, I mean. But when I saw him, I'm like, yes, this fits. It needs to be there. It heightens... It continues the story. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I'm not going to, because I'm gonna wait for Gian. We'll have another cast about this where we go in depth. You know, I'm curious to see whether he liked it. He's one of those people that complained about Force Awakens being too Star Wars-y, so I'm curious in terms of regurgitating the original. And this one definitely felt like Empire Strikes Back, because the Empire wins, but there's no continuation of this story. This story's over. There's no Rogue 2. That's for sure. As a Star Wars fan, and my initial impression, I'm going to see this again in IMAX next week. But my first impression of it, it was an 8.5 out of 10. I walked away from this movie feeling better than I did with The Force Awakens upon my first viewing. But, you know, my second viewing of Force Awakens, I actually loved it a lot. So I'm hoping that I'll actually love this one more the second time I see it. But it was really weird. It was really weird not following our original band of characters. I think that's one of the biggest things that's bothering me is Star Trek exists without Captain Kirk, right? You know, they have Next Generation and things like that. But there's so many things with Star Trek. Star Wars, there's only been 8 Star Wars movies. Obviously, you have the Clone Wars and things like that. But it makes sense in the context that you're not going to see Luke because she's just a farmer. You know, you're not going to see Han because Han's out dicking around on Tatooine or whatever, doing shit. He's fucking being a smuggler, and Chewbacca's obviously with him. So why would you see those two characters, right? Yoda's in hiding. You know, Obi-Wan is... I don't know where the fuck Obi-Wan is, but there's an Obi-Wan reference in this movie when they talk to Leia's stepfather, and they're like, you know, you should get into contact with that Jedi of yours. And he said, I will. And, you know, again, now you know why he helps out Leia. Because he knows. He knows who Leia is. It's not really played in the original movie that way, but, you know, it strengthens that moment. Again, here we go. I like that. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, does it strengthen the series that it's in there and that it was basically fixed? It was retcon? I don't know. That's why I need to see it a second time. But overall, that would be my score right now. It might go up, it might not. The battle scenes were great. Love to see AT-ATs again. Fucking love to see them get destroyed. You know, it was great to see new weapons and new creature design. Love the, you know, Red Leader roll call. Because it looked like it was shot exactly like it was in the original. It even looked like they used 35mm film on that part. That was awesome. The space battle at the end was awesome. It made sense in the context. It didn't suck. This movie did not suck. Definitely did not suck. It's just my personal... I really think everyone's going to like this movie. I think it's, you know, I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes score is, but I would guess 80 to 90. Then that would be about the right, you know, maybe split the difference and say 85. That would be fitting for this movie, for sure. Because it was fun. It was lighthearted. It was a little long. But that's okay. It was something different, but not at the same time. But anytime there's Star Wars, I'll be there. So... excited to see more, maybe. I don't know. I'm curious how they're gonna handle the Han Solo movie, the Ben Kenobi movie. Are they gonna take the same approach to Rogue One, or is it truly going to be the separate tale? I don't know. It makes me wonder now. But we'll see. This podcast has gone on for way longer than I thought it was gonna be. So with that, I'm gonna end it. Curious to know what you thought of the movie, and we'll see you next time.